Okay, so your assignment over the weekend is to work on this review because we have a quiz on Monday, and thanks to all of these pep rallies, playoffs, we didn't have time to do it in class. But anyway, reviewing for the quiz. Anytime you have a problem that or a question, oh gosh, what happened to my review? Sorry, where did it go? Where did my paper go? Well, I guess I got to start over. Here we go. When you have a question or a problem referring to direct variation, you'll see the phrase y varies directly with x. So when you see that, it's kind of telling you how to set up your fraction, okay? Anything with direct variation is going to be a problem where you're going to solve a proportion. Proportions are where you set your two fractions equal to each other and then solve for the missing value. Here, this is where it tells you how you set it up. Y varies directly with x, so y over x, okay? And anytime whenever you're filling out your fractions, you always fill out the numbers in the order that they're given, because you don't want to fill in the x equals 4, then the y equals 10, and then come over here, okay? Always do it in the order that's given. So the first number is x equals 4, put the 4 in the fraction. Next number is y equals 20, put that into the fraction. Then come all the way over here, y equals 10. Since it's a y value, you put it at the top. So in this problem, what we're doing is we're solving for x. When you're solving a proportion, you cross multiply. Butterfly for those of you that still have not matured. So 4 times 10 is 40, and you divide by the last digit. So you divide by 20, and 40 divided by 20 tells you that x is equal to 2. Done. Okay, easy peasy. This one, number 2, is also another direct variation problem. You'll know it because of the phrase directly proportional, okay? And it'll tell you that the amount that he earns is directly proportional to the number of hours. So I'm going to write it as money earned is directly proportional to hours. Set your two fractions equal to each other and fill in your numbers. $1,000 goes at the top, 40-hour week, and then how much does he earn in 100 hours? Hours is a x value, or down here. So here what we're doing is we're solving for how much is he earning. So 1,000 times 100, put that into your calculator, and you get 10,000. Okay, and then the last step would be to divide by the 40. Divide by 4D, not 4. So you would get, don't judge me for not being able to do that in my head. It's been a crazy morning already. Divided by 40, 250. So you get, he earns $250. Okay. Oh no, I did it wrong. 100 times 1,000 is 100,000. Oh, yay. Yay for my brain not working. Okay, so it's actually one more zero. 100,000, yes. Divide that by 40. So it's actually 2,500. All we have to do is add a 0. Okay, sorry about that. Number 3, John graphed the line y equals 3. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch my y equals 3. This says y equals a number. So if I have y equals a number, the first thing that should pop in my head is Hoy. Okay, so this is my line, y equals 3. It says the line has an undefined slope. Well, when we use Hoy, the acronym Hoy, it tells us that the slope is 0. Okay, it says which one of the following statements is not true. Well, this one's already the false one, but let's go through the rest of them. He drew a horizontal line. The H in Hoy tells us that it is horizontal, and it's passing through the point negative 2, 3. Well, we know that the y value, that the y value of the line is 3. the y value in this point is 3. So you know that this is, that this is a true statement. The line will be perpendicular to the y-axis, a horizontal line. If we we have a horizontal line right here. If we draw a line that's perpendicular to it, it will cross and make a 90-degree angle, meaning that we would end up drawing a vertical line, which is the y-axis, so that's true. The line will be parallel to the x-axis. Well, if I draw my x-axis, or if I graph my x-axis, I will notice that my graph line is parallel to the x-axis, so that is also true. So my answer would be A. Always, always sketch. Always, always sketch. Number 4, you have transformations. Write a linear function to represent the graph of G. Okay, so when you're writing your equations in function notation form, remember you must first write it in, or actually you don't have to, but it makes it easier to write in slope-intercept form. So to write in slope-intercept form, you use slope and y-intercept. The y-intercept of this is 3. The slope, we can use -2, 2. The rise is 2. The run is 2. And 2 over 2 simplifies to give you 1. So in slope-intercept form, you would have y is equal to 1x plus 3. But because the STAR test is asking us to because the STAR test is asking us to write it in function notation form, we would write it as y changes to g of x changes to f of x plus 3. Okay. Now what this one does is it represents going up 3. We can also write a separate equation. Hold on. This one represents your shift up. We can also write a separate equation that represents how it shifts to the left. Okay, so if we shift to the left, if we shift to the left, our equation would be y equals x minus a number, right? Well, the number that I'm plugging in is a -3. So if I plug in a -3, you'll notice that that ends up becoming I'm going to make it in 2 steps, plus 3. So then you would change it to function notation form. So g of x equals f x plus 3 parentheses. All you have to do is add the f in the front. So both of these equations, let me change the color. Both of these equations represent that same line. Okay. You can actually end up writing it both ways. Colon, graph the parent function and a new function on the same grid. The new function's name is g of x. Okay, f of x equals x is always your parent function. It is the function of x. It is your first line. The function f of x was shifted 7 units to the right to create the new graph. So it says write, whatchamacallit? Right, part A wants us to write the new equation. Well, if we were shifting 7 units to the right, we're talking about changing the x-intercept. So that would be this format right here. 7 units to the right, we're plugging in a +7. So if we plug in a +7, my equation would stay as x minus 7, okay? But we want to write it as g of x. So g of x is equal to f of x minus 7, okay? What is the y-intercept? Well, there is no number here out to the side, so that tells you that the y-intercept would be 0. No, it wouldn't. It would not. If you're shifting it to the right, you're actually changing the y-intercept. Oh my goodness. Why did I do this? Okay. If you're shifting it to the right, you're changing the y-intercept. So let's see. You can always graph this in the calculator. and I'll probably have to go over this in class again. X minus 7, so that's what I'm going to do. This is my parent function. Oops. Let me move this 0, and I'm going to make my parent function a dotted line. There we go. There's my parent function right here. And I'm going to add, let's see, hold on, y equals parentheses x minus 7 parentheses. Okay. So when I do that, how do I close this out? When I do that, I'll notice, or you notice that, let me change this. I don't need that. 1. Okay. When you do that, you will notice that your y-intercept went from 0 to a -7. Okay? To a -7. So the y-intercept is -7. What is the slope? Well, there is still no number in front of x, so the slope is still 1. Will the lines intersect? Notice when I graph both of those lines, they'll become parallel, so do they intersect? No. The lines do not intersect. Number 6, write an equation of a line that is perpendicular. Very, very important to keep those keywords in mind, because if it's perpendicular, we know we have to change the slope by using KFC. Okay? Now, when they give you an equation, they don't give you the whole equation because you need everything in it. No. With perpendicular lines, we're only worried about the slope. So we know that the slope of the original line, or the first line, is -2/3. Because of the word perpendicular, yes, you do have to keep flip and change, and your new slope is +3/2. Okay? It tells us here that it crosses the y-axis. If it crosses the y-axis, that makes this point my y-intercept. So B is -6. And now they want us to write the equation. Very important to read the whole question. So my whole equation is y is equal to 3/2x minus 6. If all you do on the quiz is give me the slope, the new slope, that's not correct, and you will get points deducted. All right, function of f was transformed using a f of x. Create the function g as shown below. In other words, they said to create the function g, find the value of a. Well, if I write this in slope, quote unquote, slope intercept form, it would be y is equal to ax, because f of x changes back to an x, right? So all they're asking us is to find the slope of the line. And you always find the slope of the new line, never f of x. F of x is your starting point. That is your first line. It is the function of x. So to find the slope of line G, I'm going to use 2 points. Rise over run. You rise 1, run 1, 2, 3. I can't see. -3. So my new slope is 1/3. And that is actually the answer. You can take that extra step and write in slope intercept form, -1/3 x, and then you end up with g of x is -1/3 f of x. Make sure you also include the parentheses, because I'm deducting points because people are not including the parentheses, or they're putting the parentheses in the wrong place. Now, you could also write it where the fraction is inside of the parentheses. You could also write it as f of -1/3 x. Okay, up to you. Number 8, write the equation of a line parallel to this one. Parallel lines have same slope. Well, you can't tell me what the slope of this line is until you solve it. So the first thing I'm going to do is solve the equation, solve for y. You subtract 2x. I've noticed whenever we did the parallel lines worksheet, some of us forgot how to solve for y. That's not going to go away, so you need to continue to practice doing that. And last step is divide by -6. So we get y equals 1/3 x minus 2. So the slope of my line, the slope of my original line is 1/3. If we need the slope of a line parallel to it, we know that parallel lines have the same slope, so it will also be 1/3. Now the difference between problem number 8 and 6 is that they do not give us the y-intercept. They give us a random point. The random point is 9, 8. So we're going to have to use, you guessed it, point slope form. Y minus blank equals blank times x minus blank, okay? So y goes with the y, m goes in the middle, positive 1/3, and 9 here. To solve, we want the equation in slope-intercept form, so we need to solve. So we distribute, multiply. 1/3 x, 1/3 times 9 is -3. And then the last step is to add 8. So you get y equals 1/3 x plus 5. And that is your final answer. If you do not solve, you lose points. Linear function f of x is graphed. The graph of the new line is formed by changing the slope to 7. So my new slope is 7. And the y-intercept to 5. Okay, so that in slope-intercept form is y is equal to 7x plus 5. Use this information to answer. Steeper or less steep? Well, you know this if it's steeper or less steep when you compare it to the number 1. The slope of this is 7. 7 is greater than 1, so the line will be steeper. In what direction will the y-intercept be translated or shifted? A positive 5 y-intercept means it's going to be shifted up. Okay, is the new line parallel or perpendicular to the parent function? Well, we know that parallel lines have the what? Same slope. Perpendicular lines will intersect, or neither. Well, we know that this equation right here, we're comparing it to y equals 1x, right? That means we are comparing the slope of 1 to the slope of 7. Obviously, they're not the same, so they're not parallel. Did they use K of C? Well, did they keep the same numbers? No. Did they flip them? If they didn't keep them, they didn't flip them. Did they change the sign? Also no. If they did not keep, flip, or change, it will also not be perpendicular. So that means it has to be neither. Okay, write the equation of the line perpendicular. One more example like numbers 6 and 8. So you need this equation because all you need is the slope from it. A lot of you guys are still making the mistake. You need to find the coefficient of x. 9 is not the slope. The original slope of the line is -1/3. Okay, now because it's perpendicular, you still have to keep, flip, change to create the new line. So -1/3 changes to a positive 3/1, which is just 3. Okay. This also looks like a 2, so I need to fix that. The slope of the second line, okay? Now, look at the point that they give you. It's not a y-intercept point, it's a random point. So random point means we need to use point slope. x1, y1. And if you get a random point, we use point slope. So y goes with y, x goes with x, m in the middle. Those two negatives will create these two negatives here will make a positive, and we solve. Solve by distributing first. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times -1, -3. Okay. Last step is to move the 3 over. So you end up with y is equal to 3x. Be careful here because negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. Okay? And you should be ready for your quiz if you can do all of this.